Yes, it's lovely to be here today, and I'm wondering if any of you can relate to the experience of thinking that you're done with some issue in your life. And then it creeps back up, right? I often find that if I go home to visit my family, the very thing that I thought I was for sure over with is right back in my face to be looked at. Or our intimate relationships can also have a good opportunity to fire things up. I grew up in Unity, and we've come a long way in Unity. It used to be, when I was a kid, that they would say, well, what's in your consciousness, right? As if you were the only thing that controlled what happened in your life. Like there was no larger entity that was unfolding your life. We see it very differently in most Unity churches today. Unity, you know, is like herding cats. What we understand is the goal is not to not have things happen in your life. It's, are you able to be with them? Are you able to be creative with them, to flow with them? Or are you getting caught by them? And the goal is we really want to just be able to be open to the full resource of who we are as a spiritual being, which is unbelievable what's capable when we can relax into who we are, versus that constriction that comes up when we're reactive, right? And so when something comes up in us and we're reactive, there's something that is, you can generally say, not healed in us, something that caused some kind of pain, some kind of discomfort, something where our very beautifully designed ego system, because it gets us through being a child, still wants to react and either push something away, have us collapse to be safe, or have us run. So, recognizing that it is a process, and a process that I personally am invested in getting to the place where I can just be calm in life, tired of reacting. I was 21 years ago exposed to the process of inquiry. And what I have found is it's incredibly helpful. Because you see, what we've come to understand, well, maybe we could start with how Unity used to see it, how the Fillmores, very astutely from their experience, felt that if we could hold a positive image for our life, a positive idea, that it literally dissolved those negative, limiting beliefs that we had. Through psychology today, we understand it doesn't work that easily. That we actually have to go back in and experience what is the pain, what's happening. And when we actually really land on it, that it begins to soften, to loosen up, and it lets go of us. You know how often we like to say, oh, just let go of that? Well, that's virtually impossible. We have to get in and let go of us, if that makes sense. So what happens then in the process of inquiry? And ever since I said, well, I could talk about inquiry, you know, as ministers we sometimes think, what the hell did I say I would talk about that? Because it is so hard to somehow define some of these spiritual practices that we're in. But I'm just going to try and give you a flavor then for inquiry. So when we are in the process of inquiry, we are, one, using our body. Because it's interesting, our body never lies about what's going on. Most of us feel kind of disconnected from our body because we don't really want to know what's going on. We would prefer to follow the constant narrative of the ego that's telling you what's going on, which is rarely grounded in any kind of reality. It's trying to keep you safe, right? And so for that, it's projecting onto people, it's doing all sorts of things. But if you can just settle with your body, you can check it out, you know, and mainly you're looking at the trunk of your body. That's where it's captured. So you can check out your pelvic floor, your belly, your solar plexus, your heart center. The throat is a major one because if we weren't allowed to say something as kids, if you contract up in here, you know, there's something that I'm trying to say, or that my soul wants to say, that I am not being allowed to say. And it can be pressure around your eyes, you can get a headache, there's all sorts of stuff that can happen when something in our unconscious is trying to be revealed. And this is the beauty of inquiry. We, instead of just holding a positive thought, we get curious. We create some space for what is it in me that is needing to be revealed, that wants to be revealed here. So we're following our bodies, we're bringing some curiosity. Oh, and we need to bring a good deal of presence. Presence is a miracle worker. In fact, it is the miracle worker of being alive, being a human being. You see, presence is very mysterious. But presence has a way of always wanting to bring that which doesn't align with presence to the surface, to be seen. Presence is the great healing agent. You know, why does prayer work? Because we get present with a condition or a situation or a person, and it has some kind of wild impact that it's hard to explain as human beings, and yet we see healings happen. These things begin to shift. Same thing with inquiry, that when we're willing to be present to what is happening, it brings this process of discovery forward. So I'm sure you're all sitting there going, what is he talking about? But let me give you an example from my life, just from this week. And we could probably pick an example for me any given day, because I'm always in an inquiry process. Because, and you know, maybe you guys don't have as much stuff to process, but life just continues to just bring it up right for me, you know, to look at. So last week, I like to give my talks lots of space. I do my preparation, but I like to see what spirit, I really turn my body over to spirit and say, take it, run with it. So last week I had an interesting experience of giving my church's first service talk. Frankly, I was quite happy with it, you know, thought it was great, but boy, did Spirit have an idea for the second service. Totally different, used different stories and everything, and at some point, which was fine, I was tracking, sometimes I'm not tracking. And at one point, I was definitely having fun. Okay, and I said some things that were, I was trying to figure out how to characterize them. Like, so the talk was about how when we get into judgment, we can limit ourselves. In our church, we're experiencing a good deal right now of people for example, not wanting us to play certain music because the creator of the music has maybe been found to be, maybe they take sexual advantage of women or of children, or, you know, it can be any number of things, to the point that the amount of music that we could play is getting smaller and smaller. You know, like I just read an article 2 weeks ago that said if we were going to hold the composers to classical music to the standards we hold now, and not play anything that didn't fit that, we wouldn't be listening to any classical music. You know, and so we're trying to help our congregation understand we are all flawed. In some way. There's any number. If you all could stand in front of me with a list of all the things I've done wrong, which Diana, you know, used to work for me, she can help you understand them quickly. You would not want to be listening to me as a spirit. You'd be discounting me like crazy. This guy can't have anything good to say, right? So we're trying to help our congregation open up to that. So it happens that the first car I ever bought was from a guy that was a total homophobe. I mean, I had to finally call his manager over and say, I can't work with this guy, but I want that car. You know, And so I, just made a comment, guys, if I was going to say that I was never going to give any business to anyone that was homophobic, I probably would have a hard time buying a new car. I certainly would have trouble buying property in the deep south or in Texas, right? And so as I'm sitting down from that talk, my judge is all over me. Oh my God, why did you say that? Someone's gonna complain, you're gonna be in trouble, and sure enough, in the line. I mean, really, you should be gentle with your ministers, right? And so this week, I got curious. Okay, why did this is interesting, guys. I went to, why did I say those things? Now, isn't that interesting? And so I have regular inquiry times with people. I do an inquiry most Mondays, every Tuesday, and virtually every Friday. And the way they're structured is a friend and I get on the phone, and these are the same people on these days, so they know me well, right, and I know them. So we get on the phone, and each of us has either 15 or 20 minutes to inquire, but there's another person there adding their presence. Jesus, where 2 or 3 are gathered, there am I in the midst. Not Jesus literally, at least that's not the way we look at it metaphysically. It is, the presence is intensified. What does that do? It's giving more energy to the truth coming forward, bringing more light to the unconscious so it can come to the conscious, right? So we're inquiring, and I go to, why did I do it wrong? Right? And I spent 15 minutes exploring, just centering into my body. I could feel the desire to have fun. I wanted to have some fun. I'm thinking, yeah, Stuart and I, we've been packing up his mother in my church. I've had to move offices, so I've been waiting. You know how easy it is to put things in a file cabinet? And then all of a sudden, they move you to an office that had 4 file cabinets and you're down to 1. It's just been treacherous going through all my stuff. I had a condo, I have some rental property, I had a condo open up. I mean, we had been objectively very busy. And I thought, oh, I'm out of balance. I'm spending the whole 15 minutes on this. When my 15 minutes is up, then we have 10 minutes where the 2 of us get to talk about the inquiry together. And my friend starts out going, I don't see what was wrong about those 2 statements. Yeah, they were a bit exaggeratory, but they were hysterical compared to what you were talking about. You wanted to have some fun. Why? I think the bigger inquiry is, why is your judge on you for just having a little fun during the service, right? And she said, why would your judge be on you? And it was interesting. Just as I allowed myself to settle with it, and you've got to trust the images that come up and the memories, I was taken back to I grew up in a house with a pool. I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and I was out in the pool. It must have been a spring day, or maybe it was a fall day, and we were having a blast. And that was a bit unusual for me. I'm the oldest, where my mother objectively shouldn't have had 5 kids. I was always needing to support her, And she had earlier asked me, just 10 minutes earlier before I went out to play, if I would do dishes, and I said, I will definitely do the dishes, but we've all just decided we were going to go for a swim. We were having so much fun, and my mother comes out and says, those dishes are not done yet, and I could feel what would happen is my mother would shame me if I didn't get to things fast enough. And just to show you, I did not have a lot of fun as a kid. My mother's meltdowns, which she didn't even have them that often, maybe 10 a year, but they were the kind of meltdown where she's on the floor, crying, and you kids, and she's shaming us, you're so bad, and, I can't control you, and when you look to my dad was a very successful businessman, but he's gone all the time, and when that's your support, you're like, oh my God, I'm bad, and I need to, so every day I would say to my mother, what do you need help with? And she never had a day where she didn't need help, right? So here you are, a kid, I'm a young kid, and I'm vacuuming, and I'm watching after my siblings, and I've got any number of things that I'm doing, and here I'm finally getting to have some fun. And I'm getting shamed and told that I'm wrong. and told to get in that kitchen and get those dishes done. And so as the inquiry went on, what I got to see, and I've known about needing to kind of pull myself in to make sure I don't get shamed, right? But what I didn't realize, and what the inquiry helped me see, was I have learned to be attuned to everyone else at an unconscious level. I'm not like really aware of what you guys need from me right now, but at some level I am. And that if I do anything that my judge judges as being out of attune to what you need, I get beat up for it. And so it was really like, whoa. Because this is nice, that we joke that this is a group of 28. On any given Sunday, I'm dealing with 240 to 250 people. Can you imagine the energy that goes out with that, and how controlled I would need to be in order not to be judged? And so I was feeling this terrific release at the end of this inquiry, like, oh my God, I'm 60 years old, and I mean, it brings a tear to my eye now, just thinking for 60 years, I haven't needed to attune to everyone in my life instead of just getting to be. So then you can say, okay, well, what's the big deal? Well, what's interesting is when you bring an insight like that to the surface, then suddenly it's not unconscious, but something you can begin to work with. So I do a good deal of counseling in my church, and on Thursday I'm counseling with a woman. Didn't matter whether it was a woman or a man, but it's interesting that I tend to project this onto women, right? Because mommy, I'm projecting mommy, and this woman, where she is, if you've ever done or been a counselor, you could just feel that she was on the edge of some real breakthrough, right? But it meant that we needed to go back into her childhood and why, what is this about? And so I said, how is this familiar? I'm not going there. Oh my God, she was so angry, and I could feel, it's interesting, when you bring the unconscious to conscious and you realize, ooh, there's that trigger where I want to go, okay, I'll be quiet now. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring anything up. But there was more space around it, right? Like, oh, here we are. And I pulled myself to the front of my chair and I said, what's your resistance to going back there? I tend to wallow in this pain, and I don't want to wallow in this pain. I said, I'm not going to let you wallow in that pain. I'm here with you. We're doing this together, but we need to get back there. We need to see what this is, And she went with me. So I got to see that, you see, in the past, I would have tended to go, okay, well, we'll wait. We'll wait till you're ready. But this was the moment. She did terrific work. Terrific. And she thanked me afterwards. But I was free to respond to the moment, not to fall into a pattern with my mother, right? This is what we're all looking for. You see, we are incredible spiritual beings, and whatever it is you do for your work, or how you interact with people, or what it is that you dream about, our patterns say yay or nay. And they aren't really conscious to us. And so, I felt kind of bad after I said, well, I really how long do I get to talk? I don't even, is there a time? Like,
no time. You'll start to really fidget.
Okay, good. When you're clearing your voice and fidgeting, I know that we're done. Okay, good. I like this church already. Maybe I will move to Grand Junction.
And then we can go swimming.
Then we what?
We'll go swimming.
Yeah, then we'll go swimming. Right. We'll have some fun.
Yeah.
So I was feeling kind of bad because I thought, inquiry is something that is it's a practice. You get better and better at it. You get more attuned to your body. And I thought, wow, if I think of all the teachers I've had and all the practice, how on earth, what can I give these people to get started? And I wondered if maybe it isn't simply to invite you this week to really pay attention to your body, to be curious about what's going on in your body, to recognize that it may be that your own, remember there's an incredible momentum in your presence that wants you to be free. God wants you to be free. It's a weird thing. We would think that a loving God would just free us. But for some reason, it's not the way this life experience has been set up. The universe keeps unfolding a life to say, are you free yet or not? It unfolds the same damn situation. Puts different people, they have different faces and stuff, but it's the same damn situation. Good God, here we are again. But as you can begin to unlock the pattern, you're free to respond as the moment needs. And it's so satisfying. It is so much more satisfying than finding yourself in your old pattern just doing the same thing that you've always done. And so if you can use your body, because your body will never lie. Your body is a representation of your soul, your total soul, not just your ego. And so if there's a tightness, a constriction, or even if you're feeling really open and expanded, that means you've landed. You're relaxed. You're you, with the big S, right? The big self. But when there's tightness or constriction, or one of my counselees started out with me saying, I feel nothing in my body. I said, wow, you've got an amazing defense system then. You needed it. What was your childhood like? Oh, my dad abused me. Okay, so then we can, know that, all right, as we begin to be with just the sense of nothing there, that there's going to be a lot of pain and a lot of emotion that's going to come up. And probably you're going to want to work with somebody in the inquiry. That's where a therapist naturally does. The beauty, you guys, of inquiry is my first counselor told me what I was experiencing, told me how I should live my life. The wisdom in the inquiry is it's inviting you into, who are you? How are you supposed to live? Who are you to be? It's not someone telling you. It's beginning to develop your own trust of who and what you are, and that you have it all right inside of you. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't need ministers and I have a spiritual teacher. It doesn't mean we don't need help of our friends, and I'm going to leave family out of that. Maybe family in the, for pushing those buttons, but we begin to start realizing that we can trust who we are as spiritual beings. And so this week I invite you, if you just, I don't know how you could even remember, because the ego has tremendous momentum towards just follow me. Just follow me. But if you can even put a post-it up that says, hey, check in with your body right now. And just be curious as to what is happening in my body right now, and why would this be happening? It will begin, I think, to unlock. And then if you ever see advertised in our church, we teach inquiry regularly. If you ever see someone saying, come learn the practice of inquiry, sign up. See what it's like for you. I think you'll find that just as it has supported me in moving into being a new man, not being the Scott Schell that I recognize from my childhood, but free. And in that, finding great joy in life. It's what all of us really long for. Namaste.
Namaste.